What does retirement look like if you alone have saved $250,000 in investments? What about $500,000 or $750,000, even $1 million? What does that look like in terms of lifestyle, in income, and financial security once your paycheck stops? Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Today we're breaking it all down for single earners, and this has been one of the most popular requests on this channel. I want to bring a more balanced view to these conversations, showing what retirement looks like not just for dual income households, but for individuals planning on their own. So that's exactly what we're doing in this video. I want to show you just how far each level of savings can take you as an individual. And some of these numbers might surprise you. And at the end of the day, it's all about what your number can do for your lifestyle. Let's start with a modest but very common scenario, a retiree with $250,000 in investments. That's right around the median level of investable assets for those at or near retirement. And if you have more modest investment levels, we'll assume you had more modest lifetime earnings. So we'll give you a Social Security benefit that is slightly below average. We'll assume this individual has a full retirement age benefit of $1,500 per month at age 67. That translates to $18,000 per year from Social Security. Now, if we apply a 4.7% safe withdrawal rate, this $250,000 portfolio could generate just under $12,000 a year. Add those together, and this retiree would have an annual income of just under $30,000. That's modest, and depending on where you live, this might be realistic or it might not be. If you live in a low cost of living area, you have a completely paid off home and no debt, this could be realistic. On the other hand, if you live in a high cost of living area, this may not be possible. Let's run through how adjusting when you claim Social Security changes the picture. If this person claimed early at age 62, their $1,500 benefit would drop to about $1,000 per month, or $12,600 for the year. Add in the same, less than $12,000 from investments, and their total income at 62 would be about $24,000 a year. I think based off these numbers, we can say that an early retirement is not the most ideal choices. With this level of investable assets and that Social Security payout, that gives us an income that's roughly at the poverty level. And so from a pure financial strength standpoint, this individual would be better delaying their retirement a bit. If instead they delayed claiming until the age of 70, their benefit would increase to just under $1,900 a month, or $22,000 per year. With the same level of investments, their total annual income would now be $34,000 a year. When you see numbers like that, we see that it's a very strong argument for this individual to continue working and delay claiming Social Security all the way to the age of 70, especially when you have a more modest investment portfolio. If you want to be able to apply a safe rate of withdrawal and you want to have your highest income floor possible in retirement from Social Security, there's great power in delaying when both of these numbers are fairly modest. That's nearly a $10,000 difference in income every single year just from waiting. For someone with modest savings, timing when you claim Social Security is incredibly important. Social Security is going to be your primary income source in retirement, and that lasts for your entire retirement. But remember, there's no one way to do retirement. We could absolutely have someone do a phased retirement, which can put them in a much stronger financial position even with modest assets. Let's do an example. Instead of our retiring doing a full stop to work, what if instead they continued working part-time for a few years before entering into full retirement? Now, personally, I like the idea of this individual waiting until at least full retirement age of 67 to claim Social Security because it gives them a stronger income floor, but I do fully understand that that decision is not possible for everyone, or maybe everyone just doesn't want to wait that long. So in this case, let's say our retiree claims Social Security early at age 62, giving them a benefit of $12,600 per year. At the same time, they continue working part-time for the next 5 years, until age 67. Let's say this part-time job brings in $1,500 a month, or $18,000 a year. The good news is, this amount is below the Social Security earnings limit, so their benefit won't be reduced at all, and that means their total annual income is $30,600, all without touching their investments. So in effect, they're maintaining their same standard of living that they would have otherwise had if they waited till retire to full retirement age and were drawing on their investment portfolio. But here, they're stepping away from the workforce or partially stepping away from the workforce early at the age of 62, doing a phased retirement, continuing with part-time work. They're not touching their investments, and there's a major benefit to this. If they had $250,000 at age 62 and they left it invested, they didn't contribute any more to it, but they also didn't draw from it, this portfolio would very likely continue growing in the background. And let's say that we can capture an annual 8% rate of return. That portfolio could grow to roughly $367,000 by the time they reach the age of 67. At that point, our phased retiree stops working altogether and now begins drawing on their investment portfolio. A 4.7% withdrawal on the larger balance would provide around $17,000 a year, and when combined with their $12,600 in Social Security, that gives them roughly $30,000 a year as an income. Same income they enjoyed during those part-time working years, but here's the difference. They gained 5 extra years to enjoy a lower stress lifestyle. Maybe that was more time with family or grandkids while keeping their savings untouched and growing. And of course, by entering into retirement or full retirement with a larger portfolio, they built a larger safety net for themselves for the years ahead. And of course, we do have to add the caveat that market performance is unpredictable. There's no telling what the market would do in 5 years' time. But over time, markets do tend to go up. And if you're starting drawing from your investments at a later age, it's likely that you can have a higher withdrawal rate and still be in safe territory. So instead of using 4.7%, maybe this retiree uses 5, maybe 5.5, maybe 6%. It depends on their situation. So this approach, combining Social Security with part-time work, can really offer flexibility and financial strength for those wanting to ease into the next chapter of life. Now let's move up to a retiree with $500,000 in investments. At this level of investable assets, you're around the 70th percentile for retirees, considered doing better than average, but often considered far from wealthy. If we apply that same 4.7% safe withdrawal rate, this portfolio could generate about $23,500 per year in income. We'll assume that this individual earned more during their working career and give them a slightly higher Social Security benefit. At full retirement age, let's say they have a benefit of $2,200 a month or $26,400 for the year. That means at full retirement age, their total household income, including draws from investments, would be about $50,000. That's a solid and stable retirement income for a single in a modest cost of living area. But let's explore what would happen if they delayed claiming Social Security or if they claimed early. If they claimed at age 62, their benefit would drop to about $1,500 a month or just over $18,000 a year from Social Security. Layer in their investment income and they'd have a total income of about $42,000 a year. If they delayed all the way to 70, the benefit from Social Security would increase to about $2,700 per month or nearly $33,000 a year. Add in that same investment income, and total income would jump to about $56,000 a year. And these numbers line up really well with what we see the typical American spending. The typical American retiree spends anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 a year. And here's something really encouraging. About 63% of Americans age 65 and older own their home outright. That number climbs to 78% for those age 75 and up. Owning your home free and clear can make a huge difference in your retirement because eliminating that mortgage payment frees up a lot of breathing room within your budget. There's another scenario we should consider. So far, we've only looked at one guaranteed income stream, and that's Social Security. But for many retirees, they have another, and that is a pension. For retirees age 65 and older, about 64% have a pension. Yes, that number is declining across future generations, but the fact of the matter is many people do go into retirement with a pension, and if you do, it can dramatically change your lifestyle. Let's assume our single retiree here was an enlisted service member, and they completed 20 years of service and retired with a $30,000 pension. Important importantly, this type of pension begins once you separate from the service. So let's say our enlisted member enlisted at 20 and retired from the service at 40. That means by the time they hit retirement age, their 60s, they've already been receiving their military pension for years, and that's what makes this pension so incredibly valuable. Let's fast forward to age 62. Let's say this retiree has $500,000 in investments, a $30,000 a year service pension. They claim Social Security early at 62, receiving $1,500 a month or about $18,000 per year. That's $48,000 a year in guaranteed income streams without touching a single dollar of their investments. In this situation at all, they might not even need to touch their investments to fund their lifestyle. But what if they wanted to? What if they applied a safe withdrawal rate of 4.7%? That would add another $23,500 per year in income, bringing their total income to about $72,000 annually. And again, this highlights why it is so important to look at your personal situation. Because if you have Social Security combined with a pension, that dramatically changes your income streams. That can put a lot less pressure on your investments. You could go into retirement with a lesser investment portfolio and still have a great sense of financial security. Now let's look at someone retiring with $750,000 in investments. That's roughly around the 75th percentile for those at or near retirement in America. So that means you're in a pretty strong financial position relative to those around you. At a 4.7% withdrawal rate, that portfolio would generate about $35,000 a year. We'll assume this person earned well during their career, giving them a full retirement age Social Security benefit of $2,600 per month, or $31,200 for the year. At age 67, with investments added in, this would give them an annual income of about $66,000 a year. That very well could be a comfortable middle-class income. It could be a budget that allows for travel, dining out, maybe helping with family, and giving yourself some breathing room. Now, what if they claimed Social Security early at 62? The benefit would drop to about $1,800 a month, or about $22,000 per year. Then you add in the $35,000 from investments, and they'd have a total annual income of about $57,000. At this wealth level, if you're willing to follow a safe withdrawal rate, it's very likely that you could have a well-funded early retirement, of course, depending on your expenses, where you live, and your lifestyle. For many, it's entirely possible to live on $57,000 a year in retirement without having to make too many drastic cuts. Now, I do want to emphasize this part. If you're willing to follow a safe withdrawal rate, because the data shows us that the vast majority of retirees don't. In fact, the most common withdrawal rate among retirees is just 2% of their portfolio. That means the vast majority of retirees are holding on to their wealth, and often it's out of fear. The fear of running out of money down the road, or the fear of spending too much too soon. And that's totally understandable, but it can lead to a retirement that feels restricted. You worked your entire life to enjoy your freedom, but so many still end up stressing about every dollar they spend. It's really important to know yourself, to know the level of risk you're comfortable with, and know the lifestyle that fits you. The last thing you want to do is step into an early retirement that you've always dreamed of, but then find yourself so stressed about money that you don't even get to enjoy it. My 2 cents that I do want to add here is that safe withdrawal rates are called safe for a reason. They have been tested across the absolute worst times in history, and still portfolios have survived. My hope is that you feel comfortable enough that you can trust the math, that you can trust this safe withdrawal rate, and enjoy the retirement you've worked so hard for. If they delay claiming Social Security until age 70, their benefit would increase to about $3,200 a month, or about $39,000 for the year. Add in the same $35,000 from investments, and their annual income would climb to about $74,000. Again, Social Security remains a pretty sizable portion of this retiree's income, so you want to choose wisely when you decide to claim. Because if you wait to claim and you receive a higher benefit, remember that higher benefit is for life and it has inflation adjustments built in. And finally, let's talk about the big benchmark, $1 million in investable assets. This is really that number you hear everywhere, with so many people holding it up as the ultimate retirement goal. But I hope you've seen, as displayed earlier in this video, that you can have a very well-funded retirement with much less than $1 million in investable assets. Still, a huge congratulations to you if you reach this milestone. This puts you in the top 20% of those at or near retirement. And as a single for running a household, if you had to do this all on your own, saving and paying your bills, that's an extraordinary feat. Using the same 4.7% withdrawal rate, this portfolio alone could generate about $47,000 per year in income. We'll also assume that this individual had strong lifetime earnings, resulting in a more robust Social Security benefit. We'll say $3,200 per month at full retirement age, or over $38,000 for the year. That means at age 67, their total household income would be about $85,000. That is a really powerful combination of freedom, flexibility, and security. Again, let's consider timing. If this individual were to claim early at 62, their benefit would drop to about $2,200 a month, or about $27,000 for the year. Layer in their investment income, and they'd still have a household income of about $74,000 a year. If they delayed all the way till the age of 70, their benefit would grow to just under $4,000 a month, or nearly $48,000 for the year. Same level of investments, and we end up with a household income of $95,000. I think this is really encouraging. Even at an early retirement, age 62, layering in Social Security and investment income, this person has an income of $74,000 a year. So often when we talk about investable assets, the conversation tends to get stuck on what those investments can provide. You'll hear, oh, $1 million can only generate $40,000 or $50,000 a year. And that word only can be very misleading because it's very unlikely that your investments are your only source of income in retirement. For the vast majority of retirees, you will have at least one other income stream from Social Security. Others may have an annuity, rental income, a pension, or other guaranteed income streams. So in reality, while your portfolio is a major driver of your retirement income, it's rarely the only one, and your actual income is often well above what your portfolio alone could provide. As our example shows, let's say you retire at 62 with $1 million in assets, but you don't have a lifestyle that requires $74,000 a year. Well, you're not just going to take that money out to take it out. You're likely going to withdraw a lesser rate. So you're going to use a rate of withdrawal that is well below what's considered a safe rate of withdrawal. And this essentially means that your portfolio is more likely than not to continue growing in the background. Here's what the data shows us. For retirees who follow a safe withdrawal rate, there's about a 96% chance they leave behind a portfolio equal to what they retired with. There's even a 33% chance it will end up being 5 times larger. At a certain point, your portfolio becomes robust enough that the question isn't, will I outlive my money? It's, will I spend enough to truly enjoy everything I've worked so hard for? Before we move on, it's important to highlight just how impactful Social Security really is across all income levels. Yes, at smaller investment levels, you have a smaller safety net, and you tend to lean more heavily into Social Security. But even with larger, more robust investment portfolios, say $750,000 or $1 million, we see that Social Security still provides a sizable portion of the retiree's income. It plays a major role in creating stability for the retiree and reducing their total pressure on their portfolio. Here's what that looks like for a single retiree claiming at full retirement age, 67, using a 4.7% withdrawal rate. What's striking is that even at higher wealth levels, nearly half of total income still comes from Social Security. That guaranteed inflation-adjusted income stream remains one of the most valuable assets any retiree has, not because of its size, but because of its reliability. And it's the steady foundation that allows your investments to do what they're meant to do: provide flexibility, freedom, and financial peace of mind. So what does all of this really tell us? Retirement isn't defined by a number. It's defined by your number. Can you retire with $250,000 in investments, or do you need $1 million in investments? It really comes down to what your expenses are and what your guaranteed income streams are, and then you have to know your gap And that gap determines what your investments need to be. At a certain point, it's not just about how much money you have, but what that money gives back to you. Think of it as an emotional return on investment. Maybe that means buying more of your time. Maybe it means giving to causes you care about, or traveling more when you're healthy and young enough to do so. The math matters, but so too does the meaning, and your retirement plan should serve your life. There's no single one right number, just a range of possibilities. And once you know those possibilities, well, then you can get to work designing the retirement of your dreams. So what are your thoughts on these different investment levels? Do you have a target you're aiming for? Or what is the target age you want to retire? Leave it in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this one, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye, and welcome back to the channel. $1,800 a month. I wish, right? Markets are unpredictable. It's not what I meant to say at all. They're back to sawing. We'll take a little coffee break for a minute. I'm so proud of me. I powered through so much. We've done so much filming today.